Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
So today on Habits and Hustle, we have Drew Hanlen, who is an NBA skills coach and probably one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. For those of you who need to understand more about what exactly, like me, what does a skills coach do versus a strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, so basically there's on-court and off-court. So strength and conditioning coach is somebody that focuses on kind of building muscle mass or building kind of performance movements and routines. So those are the people that are, helping you jump higher, run faster, accelerate, decelerate, basically managing your body. For me, I'm managing your game. So I'm the one that's helping players learn how to shoot, learn how to dribble, learn how to do different moves. And then also I do an analytical and strategic component, which is like the video work so that we can make adjustments throughout the season. So, pre-game scouting reports basically saying, hey, this is what you have to look out for this team on this certain night. And then after the game, providing them with video just to say, hey, here are the things that we could have done better so that they constantly, progress throughout the season so that they're at their best when they need to be at their best when it comes playoff time.
So you're a really interesting cat to me because people have been telling me about you for a while, and I'm really that's why I'm even extra happy that you're here. But you started your business. Your business is called Pure Sweat, and you started training like NBA athletes at 17 years old. So how did you know at such a young age, when you were, by the way, a basketball player yourself? So how did you even start a business so young and have the wherewithal to even know that it had legs like that?
So it was actually funny how I started. So when I was in high school, I got a car that had a lot of miles on it, 180,000 miles, and it wouldn't start if it had rained the day before or it was snowing. And I was from St. Louis, so obviously that could be an issue during the winter. And so I remember that I would always, like when I was on dates, I'd almost leave my car running because I was like, I don't want to have to go out and jump start the car and whatever. So I was like, you know what, I need to get a job that can buy me a new car. And so that's what kind of made me want to go into, any kind of field that brought me in enough income to buy a new car. And I was one of those guys that I was an entrepreneur when I was young. I was doing lemonade stands, and instead of charging a quarter, I would charge 30 cents because I knew they'd give me 50 cents. And you're not going to ask a little kid for 2 dimes back. And
that's so smart.
I did the grass cutting where I would bring my friends on. I'd run door to door, knock on the door, and convince my friends, hey, you guys cut, you trim, and I'm going to be the one that gets us the next person so that we can constantly just go where they're doing the work, I'm doing the kind of sales. We do shoveling snow, and to the point where we shoveled so much snow, we bought a snow blower machine to make it faster. So I was a young entrepreneur. Right. So then when it came time to get a new car, I was like, all right, now I can't just do the kind of hustling door-to-door stuff anymore. So I saw that there were referees. They were looking for referees at this local, facility, and they were paying $18 an hour. So I was like, $18 an hour as a, 16, 17-year-old, that's like $1 million, you know what I mean? And so I showed up to the facility and said, hey, I'd like to apply. They said, well, the guy that you have to apply for, Matt Brobeck's his name, is not in right now. And I said, okay, can I have his contact information? They said, perfect, and can you leave a note? So I emailed him, didn't get a response. I called him, left a message, didn't get a response. So I showed back up to the facility, and I was like, hey, is Matt Brobeck in? They said, no, he's not. They said, he's not in. I said, where's his office at? They said, downstairs. Well, being naive to kind of how the business world works and just simple etiquette, his door was unlocked, his office door. So I opened it up, went in, took one of his sticky notes and wrote a note. Hey, I know you got my email and voicemails, call me. So maybe like 15, 20 minutes later, he had called me and said, hey, sorry, I was out for lunch. Like, why do you want this refereeing job so bad? I said, $18 an hour. He said, well, let's find a time where we can meet. I said, well, you're at your office right now, so I'll see you soon. And I just went up to the facility. So he was like, listen, I've never seen somebody so persistent, but you have to have like referee license. Like, have you done any of your officiating camps and this and that? I said, I promise you, I'm a basketball player. I can do a better job than the refs that are screwing me over on the daily. Right. And he was like, he started laughing, but he was like, that's not good enough. You have to have some certificates. I was like, man, he's like, why do you want it so bad? I said, $18 an hour. He said, listen, my son's tired of listening to me coach him. Why don't you coach my son's team? And I was kind of like, well, what does that help me? It doesn't help me get my card. And he was like, I'll give you $18 an hour. So I was like, no longer am I a referee. I'm a coach now, like all in, I'm a coach. And then through coaching his son's team, I started having access to the facility. And so there was 2 games going on the 2 courts, and I was on the 3rd court, and I was working my butt off. And I was known around the area as like the hardest worker. And so one of the parents, George Baker from court 2, came over to me, and I was hands on my knees, dripping in sweat, bent over. He came over and like literally scared me, put his arm around me. I kind of jumped a little bit and looked back, and he was like, listen, I've never seen somebody work so hard. He's like, can I pay you $20 to put my son through that exact same workout? And I was like, no longer am I a coach. I got a $2 pay raise. Now I'm a trainer. So it literally happened just because I was working really hard. And then I started training kids, and I saw how bringing them success brought them happiness. And then I started actually studying the craft of training, because at that point, all I was doing is I was obsessed with Michael Jordan. So what I would do is I would use VHS tapes. This is ever since I was really, really young. Like when I was younger, I'd put VHS tapes, I'd record the game, whatever Michael did the night before, I went and practiced that in the driveway the day after. Well, this was past when Michael Jordan was still in the game. So like YouTube was starting to kind of come around, and there were some sites that would like post some clips of games. But what I would do is I would just get my hands on as much footage as possible and study the game. I would write down everything and just start kind of training kids. And one of the kids that I started training locally, Brad Beal, he was 13 years old. I was 17 years old. I started working him out. He saw a big jump in his game. Now, he had grown a couple inches. He had always been a hard worker. He had, his mom and him had been in the gym forever.
But you were a kid. That's what's so crazy to me. Like, you were like still a kid.
Yeah, but for me, it was always like, I always look at this, and it comes from kind of, my family is always big on the more people you help, the more you help yourself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I can just impact people's games, then I can impact their lives, which will ultimately impact my life. And so
he was 13 and you were 17.
I was 17. He lifted with his brothers, grew a few inches, perfect storm, but he went from averaging like 9 points a game as a freshman to, after that summer, to 24 points a game as a sophomore. He went from like unranked to ranked. And as his career took off, my career took off alongside. And we talk about it all the time. We give each other so much credit, but like, we just grew together. And from there, whenever you get crazy results like that, everyone else in the area wants to follow. Then it becomes a Midwestern thing, and then it becomes a kind of all around the nation. The top high school players were like, what are you guys doing? We want some of that action. And then I found myself working out, NBA players and top college players and top high school prospects when I was, freshman, sophomore year in college, and everything else is kind of just word of mouth spread, and one client leads to the next, and now it's fortunate enough that it's kind of mainstream now where, top players seek me out, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to help them.
So who does? So do the players hire you, or do the teams hire you?
It's mainly players. I prefer it that way because if a player comes to me and seeks something, then their willingness to learn is just a different kind of buy-in, because you need buy-in, you need trust, and those things take time. The trust takes a long time, but if they come with an open mind and they really are craving improvement, that's when you can get, insane results in a short period of time. It's when they come and they're like, feel like they're forced, feel like they're dragged there by their team or their agent or their parent or whatever. That's when you don't have that same level of buy-in. It's hard to get the trust because they're always skeptical that they're there for somebody else's agenda.
Right.
For me, I try to I don't ever seek players out. I let them come to me because when that happens, they have this openness to them. And then once you get in the gym with them, you see if you're a good fit or not a good fit. And if you are a good fit, you can get crazy amount of results.
Like so you're one person, I know you have a business, and you told me before, how many people work for you though? So
we've fluctuated for a bunch, but like 72 people were under the brand at like capacity, which means some independent contractors, some full-time employees. Now we have trainers all over the world.
But people want you, I'm sure. So when an NBA All-Star calls, they're calling to have you. They're not calling to have probably someone who works with you, right?
Kind of, yeah. It's got to the point now, it's actually really cool where now I have 4 or 5 other NBA trainers under me that, we've kind of mentored and grown, and they've learned and they use the same curriculum. So now there are other NBA players that seek out some of the other Pure Sweat trainers, which is really cool for me from a mentoring standpoint. But yes, the guys that reach out for me definitely are like, hey, we want hands-on, one-on-one attention for you. And so what I have to do is I just have to find guys that really fit. Like, I'm going to spend a ton amount of time with them, so I have to make sure they're good people first and foremost, and then make sure that their willingness to learn, because I don't want to be one of those guys that just slaps guys' names on the resume and takes credit for all the hard work that they've put in before me. I always evaluate how I've done with a certain player on where were they when I met them, where are they now, and what gap did we take them? You know what I mean?
Exactly. What the performance gap.
And I think that that's where a lot of my industry struggles with is the false promoting. We live in a Instagram era where if you go to a club and you see a celebrity, you take a picture with them and your caption might be like, great night out with, Kevin Hart, and you're like, you don't know Kevin Hart. Well, it's the same thing in my industry. There's a lot of players that'll go in a gym and the trainers will take pictures with them, and now the whole public is fooled into thinking that they actually work with them. And so for me, I try to really just say, all right, these are the guys I rock with. These are the guys that have actually helped. These are the guys that I'm pouring my heart and soul into. These are the guys that are also working their butts off, because I'm a big believer that trainers don't make players, players make players, because they're the ultimate ones putting in the work and stuff like that. But we're like the GPS. My job is to say, hey, where do you want to go? Okay, boom, we punch in that location, and my job is to direct them on the fastest path possible. And if they get off the course, my job is to redirect them so that they stay on course. And speed is really what they're paying me for, because the faster I can get them better, then the earlier they can get paid. And the way the NBA contracts work, the earlier in your career you have a big contract, then kind of the incremental raises go up. And so, it's crazy how the process works. But I'm one of those guys that's super obsessed. I look at analytics, I look at film, I'm constantly breaking down stuff. I've hired 2 full-time videographers to film every workout so that I can go rewatch workouts.
No, I know. That's what's amazing. I was going to ask you about that. So, like, what is your process? Like, what makes you, besides your obvious work ethic, which is obvious, what are the actual, like, line-by-line things that you do to be so good, to then be able to, like, take these people who are already all-star players to the next level?
So the weird thing is, when it started out, I was like, all right, I've got to be obsessed with kind of learning the game. I was so young that I knew that there were going to be a lot of people that, for lack of a better word, shit on me because I was young and said, hey, listen, you don't have that experience. And so I had to make up for that experience by kind of like really going deep in the teaching, because I knew that I could never say, hell, I've been an NBA coach for 25 years or I've trained people for 25. Like, I couldn't do that. I can't make up time. But what I can do is make up knowledge. And so I've watched every single made field goal from the last 8 NBA seasons, which comes down to basically over 1 million possessions. It's like 1.1 million possessions. We were doing that one day for a story. We were like, I want to know how much basketball like footage I've actually watched. And that was just stuff that we know. That doesn't count all the other stuff. So 1.1 million possessions of a basketball game.
My God.
Have a curriculum that's like 2,800 pages. And
so how many hours are we talking? Like, how many hours do you think that you've actually...
I couldn't even put a number on that. Like, I really couldn't.
Do you still daily watch video?
Yeah, during the season I watch a ton.
You said you still have you have 2 videographers following you around. So do you then take all that video and then rewatch it? So basically, if you're training for 8 hours, are you then going home and watching 8 hours?
Now it's got to the point where I have people that help me with the process of making me more efficient and effective. I'm not going and watching a whole workout again when they're walking back from the basket. What I'll do is I'll have them trim the fat, and then I'll watch the substance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Same thing in games. Now with technology, there's different programs where instead of having to watch a full game, where you're watching media timeouts and all this kind of stuff, you can trim it down to, all right, well, they were walking the ball up the court, that gets cut out. And so you can watch a full game in maybe 30 minutes. So it's now with technology, it makes my job, I'm so much more efficient and effective with my time. But I mean, if I'm at a game for a client, I'm there 4 hours before the game. I'm filming their workouts. I'm analyzing if there's anything that is going on, because most of the time the reason I'm at that game is because they brought me there because there's some issue that's going on that we're trying to fix. Then I watch the game live, take notes throughout the game. Then afterwards, I'll go break down that game for them and go over it with them. So, I mean, it's a long process, but I feel like it's the best process to get the best results, and that's all that matters to me.
Well, how many clients can you actually even have at a time if it's such a time? Because you're basically you're not basically making money when you sleep. Like, I know you do have a bigger team now, so you can make something of that, but you are basically putting in the hour that you're actually having to make the money from. So how many clients can you have at one given time?
Kind of. So I have an iPhone app that's available, basically giving all those same processes and strategic kind of workouts. I have an app available for kids and youth players and, you know, professional players on. And then I have a consulting like side for the coaches and trainers. And we just released our first course. We're building out the first ever basketball like online university. So we do have stuff that's mailbox money oriented, but for me, I have 14 clients that are full-time, like full service. And then I'll have, 50, 60, 70 NBA players that scatter through the gym, but they're not my clients. You know what I mean? They're guys that just happen to be in LA or happen to be in New York or whatever. So, but I have 14 guys I rock with.
So that means like, okay, so we're going to get to all the other stuff in a second, but I'm like fascinated by this. So 14 people, how many hours, someone hires you, like let's say I said, okay, Drew, can I hire you to help me with my dribble? How many hours are you going to help? Like, how long is the program? I know, do we sign up for like 3 months, 3 weeks?
No, it's such a relationship business. Like the way I do things is, first off, I tell them to pay me whatever they think it's worth, whenever they want.
So you have no fee?
No fee. It's like literally they just write me a check whenever they want to say thank you. And that could be any time. Most of the time we do it after the summer where my birthday's in September. So it's like
me
a birthday.
Too. What day?
Yeah, September 28th.
Okay, mine's the 16th.
Yep. So normally we do it around that. But yeah, I'm a results-based
driven person.
Yeah.
And also, but wait a second. So then like if you bring on a new client, they just pay you whenever they want, or
whenever they want.
So like it can go like a year and you just never see like.
I've had guys go multiple years where they literally don't pay anything because it's either, you're talking about guys that are making millions and millions of dollars,
right?
And a lot of times they're pulled in so many different ways. And so for me, one of the biggest issues that I see with my clients is how much financial pressure they have from every other individual in their life. Whether it's their family asking for little things that build up to big things, whether it's friends that now assume that every dinner that they go to, that the NBA athlete should pay, et cetera, et cetera. And so I never want money to come in between us. And so I don't ever want to invoice somebody. I don't ever want to put a dollar figure. What I really want to do is at the end of their career, I want them to say, thank you so much for helping me get the best out of my career. And financially, it always works out.
Right. So you have been paid by a couple people at least by now.
All of the guys have paid me. But when I first started, I remember when I first started training, my first NBA guy was David Lee. And I remember he kept asking me, hey man, invoice me. And I was like, oh, we'll figure it out. Because I didn't even know what to charge an NBA guy when I was that young, And then he was very adamant on paying me, but I just never given it to him. So then the summer goes by and I'm there all season, and then the next summer starts and I hadn't collected anything because, he had asked me, but then it just kind of went back. And then I remember I was in San Francisco because he's playing with the Golden State Warriors one day, and he came out and threw a lot of cash on me and was like, bro, I forgot to pay you last summer, and here's this stuff. And I remember as a kid,
How much was it?
I'm not going to say that just out of privacy for him, but it was a lot more than I had ever got paid before.
Okay.
And it was more so the appreciation that matters to me. And it's weird, but I have on my phone, I have text messages that are screenshot from when guys will get drafted, they might send me a text message 3 a.m. on their draft night to be like, we did it, bro. And I always immediately reply, no, you did it. But the fact that they even think that I was able to help them achieve what they wanted to achieve, that's more important than any dollar figure for me. And I think that the weird thing in the culture that we live in is everyone's so obsessed with how they can benefit from the situation or how they can make money out of everything. And so I'm not like that. I grew up, we weren't broke, but we weren't well off. But we lived the quality of life that was way above a lot of my friends that didn't have. We were one of those people that we might have Abercrombie back when that was popping, but it might be from a garage sale. But we didn't care. It didn't matter to us, or we didn't need the name. We needed a basketball shoes, and we needed to be able to go to the gym. And my parents just raised me in a way that, we run an orphanage right now in Haiti. I have a little sister from Haiti, Lulu, that's now 13 years old. And she has, they didn't think she was going to be able to walk or talk. She can walk now, and she's way past where they thought life expectancy-wise. They thought she might not see her second birthday. And so just being in that, you look at, a water problem in New York City is that, you have to choose between like waters that are like $2 or $4 or $6 or $8, or you go to a nightclub and it's like $15 for a bottle of water, whereas a water problem in Haiti is like, if we drink this water, we might get sick. Like there's different problems, you know what I mean? And so I'm big on like stress versus struggle. Like a lot of people look at like, oh, I'm not making enough money, or I'm not, it's like, trust me. You know, one of the things my grandma used to always say was, you're never gonna have everything you want, but you'll always have more than you need. And so when you look at the stresses that most people stress out about and waste so much energy and time on, it's stuff that really doesn't matter. You're not gonna stress about it 3 months from now, especially 3 years from now. The real struggles are the only things that your mind should ever pay attention to, because those are things that are gonna be there forever, you know? So I never worry about that stuff, and it always works out. It's weird how all these people that chase money instead of chasing helping people improve, those people might win in the short term, but they sell themselves out, and in the long run, they're gone.
That's so true. There's no longevity or...
Not at all.
Yeah, that's actually very true. So walk me through what would it be like. Let's just stay with the dribbling because it's easy. So if I needed help with dribbling, what would you... So you'd look at, obviously, video, and then how does your brain like figure out and work on how to make that better? Like, give me a couple...
Reverse engineer. That's like the word I use all the time, reverse engineer. So what I'll do is I'll look at the problem and I'll say, okay, I'll identify the problem. Then what I'll do is I'll find solutions for that problem. And I have a long list of them because not every solution works for every player. And then it just goes down a process. So I'll say, okay, so say you were having trouble with your control of your dribble, if we're using your analogy. Then the first thing I would do is I'd say, okay, here's a drill that has fixed a different client of mine that's worked, and you try that out. If that's not working, the first thing that I have to do is I can't lose you mentally, because as soon as you get frustrated, you're not going to be open to learning. So what I'll say is, hey, listen, that works out great. Now you're doing this better, but you're not doing this. Really, they might not be doing anything better, but I have to keep them motivated to say, hey, listen, the drill I gave you, that was step 1. Because I don't know where, it could be step 10 that they get it, but you can't lose them. So
how do you keep them motivated? What's that tip?
It's more so the mental side is so much. Like nowadays, as much film as I study, I read so much on depression. I read so much on mindset. I read so much, like all these books, because I need to know how to keep these guys not only motivated, but also open to learning, which is hard because the frustration kicks in quick. And so what I do a lot of times is being able to pivot is, in my opinion, besides the knowledge that I've accumulated throughout my time of studying the game, picking brains and stuff like that of high basketball IQ, is literally the ability to pivot. And what I mean by that is most people stick on something because they're so, it's almost like an ego thing, where they're so sure that their solution is going to work, that if it's not working, they're like, yo, you're just not doing it right. And it becomes a negative. Whereas for me, it might be something like, say, dribbling. I'll say, all right, do this. Okay, perfect. Now we got step 1. Now we go to step 2. All right, so step 2 is this. Really what I'm doing is step 1 wasn't working, but I'm just convincing them that step 2 was all along the plan. And then we do to step 2. Okay, listen, now we've got this, but do you notice this? Yeah, I noticed that. Because now their buy-in is they're feeling what I'm seeing. And so once they see that we're on the same page, then they can start figuring it out. And then eventually there's that aha moment. And that's what I live for, is the aha moments. Because once they have that aha moment, now they know that that process was all to get to the result. And it really doesn't matter if it goes from, step 1 to step 5 to step 4 to, but it's a constant game of how do we keep them positive and motivated and open to learning while challenging them so much mentally, emotionally, and physically that when the game time comes, there's nothing that can rattle them.
Well, name a couple of people. Everything starts with the head. Actually, everything is mindset and mental. People always think that the physical is just on its own, but you can do anything physically if you have the right mindset and keeping yourself focused. So, name who would you say that you've worked with who's had amazing focus, amazing work ethic, and just exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So I've worked with so many players. But the guys that I stick with are all the guys that do that. So like people are always like, who's your hardest worker? And I'm like, if they're still with me,
it's because
they work hard. Like there's been a ton of guys, NBA All-Stars, that have kicked out of the gym, and the people around me, my team is like, oh my God, you know how much marketing like that person would have brought to, and I'm like, I don't care, because I can't stand being in the gym with somebody that doesn't love basketball, that doesn't crave getting results, et cetera. So I mean, there's different guys. So here's what I'll say. Like, you have guys like Zach Levine is a guy that's won 2 dunk contest championships. I think he'll be an all-star this year. He barely played at UCLA, entered the draft. People were literally criticizing him. They're like, why is he going in the NBA so early? He's going to end up in the G League, the developmental league for the NBA. And now he's a guy that averaged 24 points a game last year, killed it. His dad was an NFL player. And the workouts that he does with his dad are insane. And that's what I fell in love with him for. Before we had ever even worked, I had done my research, and they're doing stuff that no one else is doing from the physical side. And then you look and he's got a 47, 48-inch vertical, and you're going, that's all because him and his dad put in so much work.
What? What are they doing?
I mean, you're talking about 100-yard, one-leg jumps, and then go backwards and then do sand pits. And their whole backyard they turned into a compound so that he could just work out. But most people, when they think of lifting, they might go into a gym and they might do a few bench press and do stuff that makes their body look better. But theirs was so much performance driven. You got guys like Brad Beal, who before he went to Florida, we did 100 hours of basketball training in 1 month. It was our thing, let's get to 100 hours. But people just don't do that. People aren't obsessed with that. 100 basketball hours. That doesn't include weight training. That doesn't include cardio. That doesn't include film breakdowns. 100 on-court hours, which is obsessive. And I mean, there's so many guys, to be honest with you. Anybody that you look at that has, I was talking with one of the NBA players, an NBA All-Star the other day, and he's not one of my guys, Victor Oladipo. And Victor is recovering from an ACL injury right now. And he was watching Joel Embiid work out and was like, man, he's one of those guys I rock with. And he goes, there's players in this league that regardless if you like them or love them or hate them, or doesn't matter, you just respect them. And he's like, the dudes that just get after it, doesn't matter how good they are, they keep grinding, they keep working. And we talked about that because he's in that category. He's one of those guys that is just a relentless worker. And we were talking about that, and it makes so much sense to answer your question is there's a handful of guys in the league that are just, doesn't matter what you can say about them on the court, you're just we respect you because you're out there giving it your all.
Right.
You're doing all the extra things, what I call the unseen hours.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about.
And I coined this phrase a while back. We were looking for kind of what to call this. You know what I mean? You think about so many people put in so many hours that no one knows about and they'll never know about. For me, there's a lot of people on social media that when one of my clients has a good game, they'll be like, wow, you're the GOAT, you're the greatest, thank you so much, you guys did great work. Well, then the same player struggles 3 nights later and they're like, you suck, why would he ever listen to a 5'11" little white kid that, only played college basketball? And for me, I pay no attention to it because I'm like, listen, first off, the client and I know how much work we both put in to try to get the best results. Now, that doesn't always guarantee results, but what it does is it gives us the best opportunity to get results for that client. Second thing is, when you think about it, everything that we do in life isn't, I mean, a lot of people try to make it now broadcasted, but when your parents go to work, they don't tweet about to go to the office. It's because it's expected, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the NBA world, now, since people want to see that footage, if they're not posting, if they're not tweeting, if they're not Instagramming, then they assume, where are they? Are they working hard? It's no, there's a lot of unseen hours that are never seen by the public and general population and fans that end up kind of showing what happens when the lights, come on in the big stages.
Right.
So I think that's we phrased it, unseen hours, and I get bashed all the time when we post something and they're like, well, they're not unseen anymore because you got posted. We're like, yeah, we understand. But the truth is, no one saw me when I used to travel around clinic to clinic. And I would say I was charging $500 at the beginning, and I'd be driving somewhere in Missouri and I'd get paid $500. I'm not going to spend $200 on a hotel. So what I would do is I would just park my car in a hotel parking lot, crack the window so it got cool, and I would sleep. And then, they would eventually knock on the window. Oh, sorry, I'm checking in tomorrow. And then I would drive to a different parking lot. People don't see that stuff, or people don't see that. My sophomore year in college, I never went out one night. And what I would do is I would watch film. I paid my roommate at the time. This was before Siri was popular. And so I would pay him to type out everything that I was saying. So I'd be watching film. I'd be like, oh, on a jab step, make sure you throw your shoulder, make sure that your chest is up so that you could do. And he was typing this all. And then I would organize it, and I would pay other people to, the yellow meant shooting, the blue meant details on this. I had a whole weird system to build this curriculum up. People don't see that stuff. I've been researching studies on performance and by how much people work, because everyone likes to say they're grinding and working, but like how much are you really working?
Right. People like that word. It's a cool hashtag, grinding.
And what started it for me was actually the NFL. So the NFL, you have 60-minute games, 4 quarters of 15 minutes, and I believe that's right. I'm not a big NFL fan, but I think that's right. And when you boil it down to how much actual like snap into the ball dies, it's like something crazy. It's like 7-8 minutes of actual like in-game going on, because there's so much like play calling, huddling up, etc. That's why I'm a basketball fan, not a football fan as much. Yeah. But it made me think like, holy, like it was something crazy, like really crazy. I think it was that. It was like 8 minutes or something like that. So then when I started digging into actual scientific studies, they found out that 13% of the time that you're at work, you're actually engaged in your work. So
what a crazy small number that is.
It's crazy, and you think about it.
It's probably less now with social media.
Oh,
I'm sure it's 3%.
It's wild, but like when I think about that number, I mean, you're talking about spending days at an office, but it's true, because I'm a big numbers guy, and so I remember one of my college roommates, who now is a coach in the NBA, we learned, which is something very obvious, if you sleep 8 hours a night and you live to 75, 25 years of your life is spent sleeping. Well, then we said if you go to work 8 hours a day, then there's another 25 years. Then you start doing the whole kind of like how much time you spend on your phone, 5 hours a day on your phone. And you boil it down and you're going 98% for the average person of your life is spent either sleeping, working, or on your phone. It's like, how much life are you really living? And if you look at like just even people that say they work really hard, they're like, well, I take off weekends. You're like, do you realize that's over 100 days in the year? You take off holidays, you start doing this, and you're like, so you don't actually really work very hard. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I think when you audit your actions, you start really seeing how much real work you're putting in. And so that's one of the big things that I was big on when I was younger is with the results-based stuff was, hey, listen, I'm going to watch this 8 hours or 10 hours of footage before I eat breakfast. Because eventually you get hungry enough that you say, I better watch the footage.
Right.
You know, and that's how I did it. It was a weird way to do it.
That's a great way to do it. I do the same thing with certain things. Like, it's a reward, right? Like your breakfast, that's just an example, is the reward after you put in a lot of hard work.
Yep.
Right? Because that's a motivator for you. I guess
100%.
it's all about tips and tricks to motivate yourself to work. But also, when you love it, like obviously, just talking to you here, you can see that you have such a passion for it. Like, your work is something that you truly love to do. So is it really work when it's something that you love to do?
So this is weird. So a lot of people are like, so you're obsessed with basketball, you love basketball. The truth is, I'm obsessed with helping people. And it's weird. Basketball just happens to be my best platform.
Right,
but
right.
There's a ton of business people that I coach, whether they're really wealthy individuals that are struggling with happiness, or whether they're people that are grinding and trying to make leaps and bounds in their business and helping them be more strategic and kind of, like I said, audit their actions and manipulate stuff, because minimal changes can make marginal and maximum results,
results, yeah.
So, I just like helping people. Like basketball I'm not one of those people, it's weird. This year, NBA Finals was going on and I got offered tickets, but I didn't have any of my full-time clients playing, and I turned down the tickets. Everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't really care about going to the games. Even when I'm there for my clients, it's not like an enjoyment anymore, because I'm so in the trenches.
And focusing on the actual
so it's a work.
results.
So my thing is, I love the aha moments. I love that some of my clients were clinically depressed when I met them, and now they're 100% happy and off meds now that they've not only improved their game, but they've improved their lives. And so my thing is...
How did you do that? Just because they've seen themselves progress and it's given them happiness and
but
confidence?
A lot of it is the off the court that we like. People don't realize that like most of the time when a player's struggling on the court, it's because something's happening off the court. It's not like you can't have somebody that's got to this like not even 1%, like even finer like of the population make it to the NBA. It's not like they forget how to do all the things that got them there. It's what happens is other stresses are pulling them in directions. Their mind's not all the way there, or they're not having fun, or they don't like their situation that they're in, or what. And so if you can help them first understand they're blessed. Like that's the first thing that I always do is like when somebody's struggling, I'm like, yo, listen, you are blessed. The second thing I do is to say, would the 10-year-old version of yourself be proud of yourself? And most of my NBA clients are like, my 10-year-old version would be my 10-year-old version would be a fan of me. Like would be like a fan of me. And it just almost brings tears to their eyes. And then you start going, hey, listen, Art, who are the people in your life that sacrifice for you to get there? Don't let them down. Like, don't make this about you. It's selfish if you're out there struggling and not living a happy life, because there's people that literally went to work every day for 8 hours on a job that they didn't like so that you could play basketball, so that you, like when you start, when you start realizing and putting everything in perspective is so big to me, because most people don't have a good perspective. You know what I mean? Like there's people that literally stress and struggle about not getting 1,000 likes on their Instagram picture, and you're like, who cares? Like at the end of the day, like you're not going to get buried and on your gravestone like average 1,300 Instagram. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. And the other thing is, the average retirement age and the average death age right now is 11 years apart. So most people work their entire lives just to save up, just to retire. And when they retire, they're too old to do it. It's like, live your life. You know what I mean? Live your best life. And so I try to help them understand where basketball fits into the big picture. And when they do that, there's so much more clarity that the game is the game, you know? And I'm not going to say his name because he's not one of my guys, but there's a Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer, basketball player that one time helped one of my guys out. And so Brad Beal and I were at a restaurant. Brad was like stressing out about a game, and one of the opponents came in, and the opponent had a really, really bad game that night, and he was out getting drunk. And Brad was like, how is he doing that? Like Brad was a rookie at the time. How is he like enjoying? He just had a terrible night. Like, how is that not bothering him? And I was like, ask him. And so I was like, if you don't, I'm going to. And so he came over to our table and was nice enough to kind of mentor Brad for that night, and just said, he's like, listen, at the end of my career, do you think people are going to remember the championships I've won? Or do you think people are going to remember the random night in December that I went 3 for 19? No one's going to remember this night. And he was like, wow. You know what I mean? And it's all about kind of what you accomplish in the long run that people are after. And it's the lives you impact. It's not going to be the likes you get. It's the lives you impact. You know what I mean? And so I would way rather at the end of my life have the people that actually know me be like, wow, he really helped improve our lives, versus somebody that just says, wow, he lived his best life. Because he lived his best life. That's just such an individual, egotistical, I don't know. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like it's not the right way to live, in my opinion. The best way to live for me is how many people can you positively impact? And then how does that become a tree effect, where if you really positively impact in somebody a certain way, they'll start impacting other people. And then,
paying it forward.
Exactly.
But you seem to have a great perspective. You really do. I mean, who's kind of your mentor in all of this?
That's a weird thing. Like a lot of people ask me, and like in the basketball world, my biggest mentor is my high school coach, Jay Blossom. And people are like, wait, but he only coaches at the high school level. But his big thing that I learned from him was, one, that nothing can replace hard work. And two is that you need to do the things that you don't want to do but need to do on a daily basis. So for me, like I hated playing defense when I was younger. So he made me play all-time defense. It drove me crazy. Like I wanted to transfer, I wanted to quit at times. We got into it at times. But then the reason that I was able to get so many college scholarships was because I was able to play defense. If I had that weakness still, I would have never had the opportunities to go do what I wanted to do. And
so he made you focus on your weakness.
Focus on the strengths and weaknesses. His big thing was like, hey, listen, strengthen your strengths, but don't have vulnerability. So I use a SWOT analysis now with all my clients. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths are, what are you really good at? What do you get paid to do? You know, for some people that's shoot, some people that's defend, some people that whatever. We got to strengthen your strength because that's what they're paying you to do. That's what your team, you know, drafted you for or traded, you know, for you for, or picked you up in free agency for. Weaknesses, we just list out the weaknesses so that we're aware these things we're currently not good at. Opportunities, what are things that we currently don't do in our game that we can add to our game that could help our game expand and grow? And then threats, what are things that could keep us off the court, keep us from getting that next great contract, or kind of hurt us in the long run? And so first thing we do is we actually look at the threats, because those are the things that can keep us off the court. So if you're a bad free throw shooter and your coach can't play you in the fourth quarter because you're a bad free throw shooter, well, that's going to really hinder the whole team's performance. So that's the first thing we'd work on. If you struggle going left, well, that could hurt your whole game, so we work on those. So we focus on getting rid of threats, and then after that, then we keep strengthening our strengths, and then we kind of work on kind of opportunities to grow. We never really look at our weaknesses. My thing was, my defense was a threat. It could keep me off the court, it could keep me from getting scholarships, et cetera. So there's other things like I wasn't a great rebounder, because of my size and natural stature, we weren't going to work a ton on rebounding because it didn't matter how hard I worked. I would be wasting my time because I could more efficiently and effectively use my time.
But you were also like a very superstar basketball player when you were in college.
So I played, so in high school, won a state championship. It was great. That's all I wanted to do. But I wanted to do it for my coach. He had been such a great mentor that I was we got to win this high school.
The high school, right.
Yeah, and then in college, I played in 2 NCAA tournaments. Shot 49% from three, which was one of the leaders in the country, which is still top 40 all time in NCAA history. But again, going back to the thing that we talked about, mental state, my senior year was when I shot lights out and in college. And it was because I knew it was going to be my last year of playing basketball. I decided I wasn't going to pursue overseas opportunities. I was going all in on the training and helping other athletes kind of reach their goals. And so I played with such freedom and such confidence. I wasn't worried if I missed a shot. I wasn't looking over the bench. I was like, it's my last go around. I'm going to enjoy it. Same thing in high school. I had so much stress and pressure to get college scholarships that I was always so laser focused on stats and results and whatever, because I knew if I had a bad night, if a coach was there, he might not come back. And so then before my senior year, I committed to Belmont. Well, now, senior year, I got to play carefree because I didn't have to worry about scholarships. Right. So I think that I learned from doing what I preached not to do, where I put so much pressure on myself, and I was so kind of results-based driven in a bad way, instead of being, hey, listen, we know what the result we want to get to, but let's focus on the daily actions that actually lead up to that. And my senior years in high school and college, I learned that. And now in the business world, I'm so process focused that it puts so much less pressure on you. There's no stress. You're not constantly analyzing, are you there yet? Are you there yet? Are you there yet? Because think about how miserable you would be if you were on a road trip and your kid's in the back seat. I don't have any kids, but
I do. And it happens all the time.
Yeah, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You're like, no, hey, we'll eventually get there. Well, then think about us grown adults. We do that all the time. It's we're not there yet. We're not there yet. This person got a new watch. We don't have a new watch. This person got a new house. We don't have a new. We're constantly comparing ourselves.
Yeah.
It's hey, eventually you'll get there if you stay on the right path.
If you stay on the right path. Is there anybody that you can think of? Well, I'm sure you have in the NBA right now that you would like to work with, that you have a really great work ethic, that have all the traits and the qualities that you would look for to work with somebody?
Yeah, it's weird. So I literally don't seek out players, but
I know. But
Giannis, who was the MVP, for 4 years ago, I said it on a podcast. I was like, man, I can see where this guy's going. I love his work ethic. He's so good to his brothers. He's basically made sure all of his brothers succeeded. And everyone, it's a very known thing that he needs to improve his shooting to take his game to even another level, even though he's at an MVP level. And I've always been I wish I could help him with shooting. So he's the only guy that I've ever publicly said, just because everybody rants and raves about his work ethic. Everybody rants and raves about how he is as a person.
But you still,
I see the one.
Why wouldn't you approach him then and say, I could really help you? Or
yeah, I think it's one of those things that if it's supposed to be, it'll be. And I think that there's, there's been times where I put together little film projects and sent them over to, his team of people and stuff like that. It just hasn't worked out. And I'm big on you're always where you're supposed to be at the exact right time with who you're supposed to be with. I'm just I feel that's the best way to be, just calm and not, so many people are constantly seeking that next thing instead of just letting it happen. And I feel if you focus on just doing really good work, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but it doesn't bother me either way.
Right, but even though you can still be doing great work and doing everything and still look at somebody and say, you know what, I think because of what I'm good at, I think I can really add value to that person's life. I don't think that's not accepting it. It's just more...
No, I agree with you.
You know what I mean? You just don't want to...
It's just weird. I really do believe that the best way to help people is be in the right spots and let them eventually come to you. And it's weird. There are times in the business world or in life where you'll see a certain friend or somebody that you'll reach out to because you see that they're struggling and you have to navigate that path. But I also think that there's, like I said, I talked about the buy-in things, and one of the things I learned from one of my best friends, Matt Hardy. He's one of my high school friends. We're so different in the aspect of I am hyper competitive when it comes to business. I'm hyper competitive when it comes to everything. I'm one of those people that, you can't play a game without me trash talking, without me, if we do something, there's a new game invented tomorrow, I will literally go study what are the best strategies to win it. Like, that's how I am. I don't play video games because I suck at them. You know what I mean? I just don't like losing. Whereas he is someone that's like, hey, listen, like, I want my normal job. I don't really care what my job is. I want to be able to have time for fantasy football, watch Netflix, etc. I don't watch TV.
At all?
At all. I don't ever watch TV.
There's not one show that you like to watch?
Nothing. I don't watch movies. I like literally like I don't do anything. I've never tasted alcohol. I'm 29. Never smoked, never tried it. Like, I gave up sweets from 12 to 22. Didn't have one sweet. It's just, for me, it's all about knowing that you have a mental edge over somebody. So like when I was in high school, the two things I did was when I was 12 years old, I gave up sweets. At the time, the Missouri basketball team, who my dad graduated from University of Mizzou, so I was a big fan of theirs.
Right.
And during the NCAA tournament, they told their players they weren't allowed to eat sweets because it helped their performance, like sugar. They wanted their sugar lower. And so I was like, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do it for a month. I'm gonna do it with them for March Madness. And that 1 month became 10 years. So I didn't have another sweet until I was done playing college basketball. So I literally never tasted, like, I mean, I know that there's sugar in bread and fruit, but like.
Do you eat fruit?
Now I do, but I'm saying when I was playing those 12 or 10 years, I didn't have ice cream, candy, birthday cake, Snickers, not soda. I still haven't had soda since I was 10. But like, I'm just weirdly obsessed. I used to wake up at 4:59 a.m. when I was in high school and shoot 1,000 shots before school every day. And if I didn't make 850 out of 1,000, I redid it at night. But knowing that, doing simple math, you're saying, okay, if I'm getting 365,000 shots a year, I'm getting, in my high school career, over 1 million shots. Well, then senior year in college, or, in high school, I shot 44%, I think, for my career. In college, I shot 41% for my career. It's like, okay, it was worth it.
So do you think that work ethic is more important than talent, or is it equally important?
I think strategy and work ethic are the two things. I think most people think that talent, and I think that there is something with talent. Like, if I was 6'7", I would have a lot better chance of being a great basketball player. So I think that there are niche injuries, or like industries that need different things. So like, if you look at, being a doctor, I think is all about like strategy and then work ethic. If you look at professional athletes, if you look at comedians, if you look at that little kind of, I feel like you have to have something in you. You know what I mean? That it factor. I always talk about the it factor. Like, people would be like, why is Michael Jordan the best basketball player ever? I'm like, when he was down, the Bulls were down 15, entering the fourth quarter, you had a room full of people, and you looked around and said, hey, I'll bet somebody $1,000 that the Bulls win. Even though they were down 15 at the time, no one would take that bet because Michael Jordan had that it factor that you knew he was going to figure out a way to win.
Right.
Same thing in life. I feel like there's people that have it factors, but I feel like it's strategy and then hard work. And I think there are some professions that you do need to be,
somewhat talented.
You have to have talent, but
look at Stephen Curry. I mean, he's short.
No question.
You said if you were 6'7". How tall is Stephen Curry anyway?
6'3".
Okay, he's still taller than you. Okay, but he says 4 inches on you. But still, I heard his work ethic is
crazy.
So off the charts. Like, before he even trains, he's already training for 2 hours and shooting and getting that swish, which he doesn't touch the rim or.
No question.
I mean, so if that's the case, obviously he has talent, through the
100%.
roof, and he has the work ethic.
Yeah, and I'm not saying talent isn't important. I do think that people are born with certain things. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like for him, his dad was an NBA player, and now him and his brother are both NBA players. I think there is a talent gene. Also, they were surrounded by it, so they probably grew up to love it. His dad was a great shooter, so I'm sure that he taught him, mechanically. That's the strategy part of it. So I'm not saying that you can't overcome.
But you were doing 1,000 shots, you said, a day. I'm shocked that you're not in the NBA.
But also,
you chose
again, I think that there's two things. One thing is, if you look at college, I actually shot better than Steph in college. So if you look at just college numbers when we were both, that was one thing. But the second thing is, I think the mindset piece, and I ask myself all this time, I almost gave up on the NBA because mentally I didn't think I could get there. And so I've asked myself a lot of times, are there certain things that we almost say, oh, that's impossible, that we give up, that if we wouldn't have had that doubt or, I always call it remove the floaties. And the reason is because I don't like swimming. And so most basketball players don't.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we just grew up just on land. Yeah, I don't know. But it's literally like remove the floaties. Like, it doesn't matter if you jump in the water, you'll eventually learn how to swim or you'll drown, right? You're not going to drown. You're going to figure it out. You're going to doggy paddle. You're going to do something. Then you eventually learn how to, do the right thing. You can swim. But if you always have floaties on, it doesn't matter how much you practice, you're never going to win the race. And so Michael Phelps, as good as he was, greatest swimmer of all time, if he competed in those Olympics with floaties on, just a little floaty, he would not have won the races. And so most people, in my opinion, they have these truths that aren't really true.
Right.
And I think that when you remove the floaties, when you remove those false truths, that's when you can really get crazy results. Because I know there's so many times there's people, like, they use, like, I'm not a morning person. It's like, no, you've convinced yourself you're not a morning person. Or I'm big boned. No, you eat like shit. Like, you know what I mean? You're lazy. And it's like, it's weird because
people tell them the story. Like they basically convince themselves of their own narrative or their own story.
And I think I did that. I think I honestly, that's one of the things I don't spend much time on, like, dwelling on the past, because I think that everything that I did, I think that like going all in on trying to become the best basketball player ever helped me become obsessed with working out, which then led me to where I'm at. But I do wonder, I'm like, what if I would have had that confidence? Because Isaiah Thomas is a guy, and I like telling this story. So he was an NBA All-Star. Injuries kind of set him back, but great guy. And I grew up playing against him. And I'll never forget
You did. He was my boss at the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah. So I grew up playing against him. He was a year older and then reclassified down to my age.
Oh.
And so we actually played him in college as well. But I remember an 8th grade tournament.
Isaiah Thomas?
Isaiah Thomas, like the new Isaiah Thomas, not like the old school
That's
Detroit
why
Pistons. Yeah, like the Boston Celtics. Yeah.
Amir's like, what?
Yeah, no.
First, that's why I got very
There's two
confused.
Isaiah. He was actually named after him.
Okay,
he was named after him.
But you're like, but I said the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, you were like, dang, you got older quick.
And you're like, yeah, Toronto Raptors. I'm like, Isaiah's like 100 now.
Yeah, no. So he played, So basically, so the younger Isaiah Thomas, the one that's
your age, okay.
I think he's 30 now. I'm 29. But he in 8th grade was like maybe 5'4", maybe small. Like he's like 5'9", and he's in the NBA and averaged 28 points for a season, like all NBA performer. And I remember him telling one of my friends in the elevator, he's like, oh yeah, like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna be an NBA player. And when he came back and told me, I was like, you're not gonna be an NBA. He's 5'4".
Right.
And I use that as an example. I'm like, wow, what if I had the same belief that he did? Because I was putting in more work. But I didn't have that same swagger, that same confidence, that same mindset of like, I'm gonna figure it out. So now in the business world, I always have that swagger. I always feel like I could figure things out. But I didn't have that same confidence and swagger. And so that's why I spend so much time on shaping my players' mindsets, because there's a lot of times where they put themselves in a box. It's not really there. Like I hear this a lot with NBA players. They'll say, yeah, my coach doesn't really want me to shoot. And I'd be like, no, your coach doesn't want you to miss. If you shoot a bunch of shots and you make them, your coach wants that, because your coach wants to extend his contract. They want to win. But you've put this box around yourself because you don't trust yourself making the shot. If you shoot a dumb shot but know it's going in, and it does go in, your coach isn't going to say anything, as long as you consistently prove over and over again that you're going to make them. Right. The problem is you've developed a box around your mindset that your coach is boxing you in. Your coach isn't boxing you in. He's just basically telling you, this is what we think you're capable of doing, and you've acted like it's a box when really it's more of a suggestion.
Right. See, you're probably so extra with this all because subconsciously you know that you did that 100%. To yourself for basketball.
100%.
Right. So now you're so much more like focused on making sure that like you're extra hypersensitive to it.
Agree 100%. I think of that in life too. Like I think the happiness thing. Yeah. I see so many of my friends that are not even just basketball players, but I see friends that are millionaires, even a couple billionaires, and they're not happy. And so when I look at that, I'm going, everything that I used to want, that doesn't bring you happiness. And I think that that's where people are trapped, is they're trapped in this mindset of, if I get this, then I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. Well, then once they get this, it's if I get this, and they're playing a never-ending game of tag, where it's tag, and instead of you now running away, it's tag, then you go chase the next person, chase the next person. Yeah. And so then you can never live that happy life. So for me, it's about, number one, helping them as people. Then number two, helping them as players. And I feel like if you help the person and care about them as people more than you care about them as players, then not only are they going to become happier off the court, but they're going to be more successful on the court.
I agree with that. By the way, did you ever end up meeting Michael Jordan? Because you seem to be a massive fan of his.
I'm obsessed with him. Yeah, yes. I've met him before, but I've never had a conversation with him. And it's funny because I met him twice, and both times he's the only person I've been starstruck. Like I've met everybody famous that you can think of, like from the basketball world, the celebrity world, rappers, whatever. And he's the only person that like every time it's still like because it's the 10-year-old boy in me that is like so I fell in love with basketball because I watched Michael Jordan. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I agree with you though. He does have that X factor that probably I've never seen again in any sport. Like I was in love with him. I had a huge crush on him as a little kid also. And I was never even a basketball fan, but there was something about him. So I'm with you on that one.
When people talk about mindset, I think the biggest example is looking at when people have done really well and then maybe they fall, like Tiger Woods. Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods, in my opinion, greatest golfer ever. Yeah. Most dominant golfer. Then he had an incident off the golfing and turf. Off the course. Yeah. And then what happens is, then he becomes beatable. And I remember there was
that's what you said. That you're right. What you said earlier, and I agree. That personal stuff. When people are not playing or doing something well, it's because something else is going on.
100%. And if you look at when he came back on the course, I'll never forget when there was the first time he like blew like a back nine, and the guy, whoever had beat him, was on the I think it might have been Rory at the time, and he was really young, and he was on the podium, and he said, he said, I don't fear Tiger Woods. And when you looked at, there was a little documentary that somebody had put together where they basically interviewed all the people that were beating Tiger Woods going into the last day, and then Tiger Woods came back and beat them, and they were like, you don't understand, we're up 4 strokes, and every stroke is don't mess up, but when we're walking, the people are, Tiger, Tiger. You hear the roars, and he goes, you just literally crumble because you know you're not supposed to beat Tiger. Once he lost that edge, it's the same thing that everyone talks about the 4-minute mile, you know what I mean? Once he broke the 4-minute mile, but it's so true in sports is like, you just knew that Michael Jordan, he was going to tell you how he was going to beat you, then he was going to beat you, and that just, it made you kind of tense up. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
it gave you that fear factor too.
And so I think that when people can remove the floaties is what I've said, when they kind of remove that and they don't have any fear, they're not worried, they're not stressed, they're just literally living so kind of peaceful. Like my definition of happiness is inner peace. When you're not wandering, you're not thinking, you're not worrying, you're not stressing, and it's weird because people will be like, so you mean content? And I'm like, no, because I don't think you can have inner peace if you're completely content. I know it's weird because it's like,
isn't
kind
content
of the same
like
thing.
Complacent?
Yeah, content, but
I would say content.
I think it's you need to be happy where you're at while you're also happy where you're going.
But you're saying things that, of course, everybody wants those things, but in real life, it doesn't work like that sometimes. Not always.
It can.
But it's a mindset. I think that not always. So I think it's a constant, you constantly have to remind yourself and talk to yourself and put yourself in that space or that perspective, because it's very easy when life really comes along and you're stressed and your kids and your work and you need money or you need that, things happen. So this is why I'm saying this. What do you do daily to kind of keep that mind with a good perspective?
I honestly think there's a couple things I do. One, I think my little sister Lulu brought me so much perspective because I see how happy she is. So the weird thing is, so now she's 13 years old and she can't talk, but she can kind of communicate. Like my mom is, taught her like if she needs food, she can grab a plate, or if she wants like ice from the ice machine, she goes to the ice machine. Like she understands certain things. If she wants certain movies, she'll like fake cry if another one comes on. So she can communicate with us. But there's 2 things about Lulu that help me. One is they said she would never walk.
Right, you said
that. My mom didn't believe that though. My mom like loved her so much and believed in her so much that I remember my mom like taking her foot and like doing this and taking her other foot and doing this and be like, look guys, she's walking. And we're like Mom, she's not walking. Well then like the next day, same thing. And eventually like she walked. And when no one thought, the doctor said no, we were kind of like, come on Mom. But my mom believed in her so much that eventually she believed in herself enough to do it. Mm-hmm. So I look at that. And then the second thing is, people all the time are like, oh, because she does have, she was born with some different, like hydrocephalus, overflowing water in the brain, and it put pressure, the water put pressure on certain parts that damaged some things. And they're like, I'm so sorry. And we're like, sorry. She's the happiest person in the house because she wakes up happy. She watches her favorite show. She eats her favorite foods. Like she's more blessed than all of us because she has no stresses and struggles because she's oblivious to them.
Right.
In a good way.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of times we almost attract problems and we attract negativity and we just what we consume. Like, it's weird, but like, if you want to stay fit, you know to avoid certain foods. But if you want to stay happy, you don't avoid social media. You don't avoid the news. Like, I don't ever watch the news. It's a bad thing.
Such a good point.
But my mom will call me and be like, "Oh my God, are you safe?" And I'm like, "From what?" She's like, "There was just an earthquake in California, and you're in California." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I kind of felt that." And she's like, "Do you not pay attention to anything?" Or she'll like talk about something that happened overseas, and I'm almost oblivious to it. And people will be like, "Well, you're not well-rounded." And I'm like, "But I'm happy, and I'm finding success in the areas that I want to find success." And I understand that you have to have some kind of cultural awareness because you don't want to there's so many things that are going on in our world right now that are not good. But I honestly think because I don't consume that stuff on a daily basis, that it's almost like I can form my own.
Right. So you're basically saying that you limit you limit the consumption of external forces that would get your mind or your space into a negative space.
100%.
So you just, okay, so that's one. Give me one more.
I think the other one, I'll use a dog analogy. So my girlfriend and I, our dog's name is Rue. Mm-hmm. Rue loves chasing squirrels. Okay. And so if we are just walking around the neighborhood, right, she can walk peacefully. As soon as she senses any kind of squirrel is around, she's going to be walking us instead of us walking her. And she's going to be pulling, she's going to be tugging, she's going to, that's what it is. So the reason I use that analogy is most people, there's so many stimuli that they don't mm-hmm. avoid. And so then their mind goes like this. Because as soon as Rue senses a squirrel, where's the squirrel? That's all she's focused on. Right. She's not focused on walking anymore. She's not focused on going to the restroom. She's not focused on going back home peacefully. Like, she's not enjoying the walk. It's squirrel. And so most of us, I think, are in that same realm. We sit down, we say, all right, I'm going to write a book. We start to write a book and we're like, it's not perfect. Oh, let me check my phone. Let me see if I can get motivation from Instagram. You're not getting motivation from Instagram. You just need a break because you're trying to distract yourself because you're not locking in.
Right.
And so
focus.
That's the other thing is I think that if you focus on the things that you actually want to focus on, then your mind's not going to wander to the things that you don't want it to focus on.
Right.
And that's where I'm at. Like, I know what makes me happy. I know what brings me happiness. I know what elevates me. I know it. And that's what it's at. And so I think that most people are highly, highly distracted. And so they let their mind go to wherever the world takes it.
Right.
Instead of focusing on what they actually want to focus on.
And absolutely. But that's why people have to put systems in place, like myself and most people, and routines and habits to eliminate those types of distractions. Because exactly what you said, social media, when things are not going your way, you tend to stop doing it and then move on to the next thing because you feel it's an uncomfortable feeling. Right?
And this is the other thing, to take it on from what you were saying, I think most people don't realize that when they say they're stressing, they're struggling, or say whatever, if you flip the situation, mm-hmm. So I've heard people literally, we were walking in New York City the other day, and somebody was pissed that they didn't win the lottery. And they were like, man, he's like, I've been playing for 8 years, and I've never got any numbers. And they're like, they're really upset about that. And I was like, if you flip the situation, let me say I gave you every lottery ticket combination besides one, and that one ticket won, you'd be like, what? How did I lose? I had every other possible. And it's like, wait a second. What about when the roles are reversed? You had that one. You were shocked when you lost. Right. Why aren't you as shocked that you didn't win?
Right. And
so I look at, I'm a big analogy guy, so you put it in place, but it's funny, it is true. If you had every other winning combination besides one, and that one combination won, you would be mind blown. But when you have the one combination, you're still shocked. And it's like, why are you shocked? You knew you weren't going to win. You know what I mean?
It's actually true. Right. I get that. So so besides that, I have to ask you another question. I heard that you basically completely transformed yourself in the last couple of years. Your body composition, everything that you've done. So you must have certain habits and certain rituals that you do daily. What did you do? What's your whole thing?
So the weird thing is now I'm in a phase where I'm actually trying to eat like trash and do that so I can gain weight so that I can do another transformation. Because what I do is I like to do these mental things with people that follow me and fans and stuff like that. And so what I did was for 1 month, mm-hmm. I changed my eating and I worked out. And I did 30 minutes of workouts. That's it, 30 minutes a day.
Of what kind of workout?
Just, I mean, we had a program, but it was like 30 minutes of like focused, like high intensity training.
Like HIIT training?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was very yes and no. I had knee surgery, so we were trying to get my knee back, and we were doing kind of HIIT training. And then I just did my own diet. I didn't buy any books. I didn't do anything. Adam Friedman out in LA did my 30 minutes of strength training, and I lost 26 pounds in the month. And people were like, "What?" Because I was this exact weight that I am now. A little bit. I was 5 pounds heavier than I am now, and I lost 26 pounds. They're like, "What were you doing?" Like people were like, "Were you eating air?" And what I was doing was, obviously, I did the normal. No dairy, no sugars, no fast food, no fried food, and only drank water. The other thing I did was from basically 9 p.m. till 10 a.m. I didn't eat at all.
So you did intermittent fasting.
I did all of that stuff. And then the other thing I did was I just ate healthy. It's crazy that seems.
That's not so crazy. So basically you did intermittent fasting and you did 30 minutes of exercise every day.
But here's where a lot of people, I think, mess up.
Okay.
I didn't cheat at all. So like I believe that 100% is a lot easier than 95%. Mm-hmm. And so most of the time what happens is people will say, I'm just going to have one chip, one snack, one whatever. And I use my drinking analogy. I do not drink. I've never tasted alcohol. I've been offered $10,000 for one shot and said no.
Really?
Which people were like, what? Are you, like, you're ridiculous. You know what I mean?
You have discipline.
But what happens is if you do it once, one chip, one drink, then it becomes, okay, no longer are you not a drinker. Now you don't drink. Don't drinking is different than not a drinker. Mm-hmm. Not a drinker means I never do it. Don't drink means occasionally I can give in. And so I just don't give in. So like for me, when I was eating like only vegetables. I was eating like every single day.
No, tell me what you were eating. I want to know.
Yeah, so I mean like I'm very picky too, which actually helped me. But I was doing like lily broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, asparagus.
Like in the give me your. Did you eat? Because you did intermittent. So what time did you start eating? You said.
So normally, one of the things that we did, which was
who's we?
Adam and I.
So Adam did it with you though.
Adam, no, he was the one that was like the trainer. Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe you and your girlfriend or you and.
No, it was just me. So I did the dieting on my own. He did the actual like workouts.
I'm still confused though. You said it's kind of hit, not really hit.
The reason I say that is because it wasn't. I couldn't do anything full speed because of my knee.
You weren't doing high impact.
I wasn't doing high impact. We were doing a lot of stuff that was just like, for instance, we'd have band work and we'd just go fast bands for 60 seconds straight. And
where were you working out in LA?
We were doing at the Mecca, Gold's Gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was the only non-meathead in there.
Meathead, yeah.
Yeah, but the dieting was the biggest thing because it's 80% of the, you know what I mean?
I think it's even more than 80%.
It could be, for sure.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I learned was normally when you go into kind of like these fasting modes, you fast, but then you eat. And then once you work out, basically you burn off what you just ate. So you eat something healthy, you burn it off. Anytime your body goes into starvation mode, it opens up the kind of the fat kind of deposits. And so what I would do is I would make sure I would work out before I ate so that I was working off the bad fat before I put in the good food.
Fat, right.
And so I think that was one of the biggest changes, and it helped. My dad lost 100 pounds in 1 year. So I took my dad to Super Bowl.
Wow.
And Gatorade, it was one of my sponsors. And so Gatorade brought my dad and I to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And they gave us all jackets, big, Super Bowl jackets. And he couldn't fit in the 2XL. He couldn't zip it up. So he was like, you know what? I was like, Dad, why don't your goal to zip up the jacket? And he took it even a step further. And all he did was he ate better. Now he still drinks, like if he watches, football games. Yeah. He's not the 100%. He's the, he's in the like 95%. Yeah. But he started walking. So he walked 5 miles a day, and he just was literally avoiding bad food. So with him, we did like, you take your meal, and anytime you have a meal, half of it automatically gets in the container.
Yeah.
And just working on limiting his portions. Number 2 was we did the no dairy, no bread, no pasta. And then he owns a meat shop and catering company. So he was like, I'm still eating red meat. He's still doing this, but just portioning out stuff.
So high protein.
And avoiding that stuff. And he lost 100 pounds in a year. My mom just did a triathlon in Chicago, the Chicago Triathlon. And she didn't get on a scale at the beginning, but she is back down to her college soccer playing weight. And so my whole family kind of does it where it's all mental challenges. But when we lock into something, we lock in.
You lock in.
You know what I mean?
So I'm still on your diet then. So what did you eat for breakfast or?
Honestly, just vegetables.
Just vegetables?
I was eating vegetables. I was eating fish. I would eat chicken every once in a while, but it was more about the portion size, and it was more about.
How many calories would you say you were eating a day?
No idea. See, that's the other thing about me is like I feel like too many people complicate the process. Like if you want to.
Oh, I agree with that.
You know what
I don't
mean?
count calories, but it sounds like to me why I'm even saying that is because if you're only eating vegetables, I was just saying that like my concern is you're not eating enough like sustenance to actually
no question.
have energy.
So my girlfriend's a vegetarian, so she does well at preparing vegetables and stuff like that. But then also I would have chicken and stuff like that. I went back to the thing that we talked about earlier of I used to do in college until I watch X amount of film or until I complete X amount I'm not going to eat. I would do that and I would make sure that like I worked out before, I made sure this and that. But I think most people eat just because they think they're supposed to eat. So for instance, like you wake up and what do? You eat breakfast. Why? Is it because you're hungry or is it because you just eat breakfast? Right. You're in a routine of eating breakfast. So I only ate when I was hungry. Mentally, I was trying to get to the point where I was only eating if I was hungry, and then I would only eat until it craved that appetite.
Right.
You know.
So it's exactly. You're basically, like I say, training your brain. You're basically training your brain, and it's really hard when you're wired a certain way because of all the experience and what you've done for so long. So like anything, it's super difficult at the beginning, but then it gets easier once you kind of have some time under your belt.
I really do believe that if you can learn how to control kind of your impulses and master your brain, I feel like that you can accomplish anything. And I think that it's why when I started doing business coaching, people at first were business owners that were basketball fans, were drawn to me so that I could use basketball analogies. And they also wanted to be around the NBA players.
I was going to say, you probably attract a lot of like high power alpha males who are just like want to work with you because you work
kick-ass females too, though. Because
I asked to train with you, remember? So I don't know if that's me, but
it's because a lot of people are obsessed with results, success in their mind, but they haven't figured out how to reach success and happiness and sandwich those two. So a lot of people, I always say that everyone has a hidden truth. Everyone has a hidden truth. So I'll give you an example. When I first started training, I was doing very well. And then when I started training NBA players, I was still doing well outside of the NBA players, but the NBA players, like we talked about, like hadn't paid me early on. But everyone thought
But you were happy with that, you said.
I was, but my hidden truth was I didn't want to talk about money or how much they paid me because I couldn't say, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing it for free. Well, like, yeah, well, anybody could train these guys for free. It's like, no, first off, anyone couldn't train these guys for free. But second thing is, it was an embarrassing thing that I was like my hidden truth. So what I did was, it actually worked out in my favor, but I did the whole pay me whatever you think it's worth, because then when somebody says, how much does an NBA guy pay you? They just pay me whatever they think it's worth, whenever they want. Well, they just happen to not want to pay me, I guess, you know what I mean? But no, I mean, that's the truth is everyone has a hidden truth. So a lot of people, they want you to think they're successful, but really they're not happy. Or they want you to think they're more successful than they really are. Or they want you to think that they're making more money than they really are. It's why people buy the jewelry and the cars and the
material
houses and or they try to impress you with, different things of like, oh, I can get you into this or I can get you into that. It's all we're trying to do is we're trying to trick people into thinking that we're living the life that we really want to live. And so
But people either do it by access or money. Those are the
most
two
of the time,
big
for
ones.
sure.
And I think it's always usually hidden because it's an insecurity of something else.
100%.
Right.
And so when you look at if you study depression, and I've studied it a lot, it's always the source. So most of the time, like somebody will say, say you have somebody that's insecure in a relationship, they'll say, oh, it's because I had a bad boyfriend or girlfriend. But the truth is, they look even further back and their parents didn't love them the certain way, so they craved, love there, or their parents didn't love each other, or whatever. There was some way back when they developed insecurity because somebody that they were seeking approval from in their early kind of years didn't give them that validation, and so then later on they've lived with it. And so I think that if you really go deeper to the source, like I always say, when somebody's like, say I was coaching you in the business world, first thing I do is like, all right, let's evaluate your state. State, story, strategy is kind of like, the three things. And it's like the story and state are so important before strategy, because if I know where you've come from and we really go to your sources, then we can rewire your brain from the jump, which then alters everything. You know, if you look at people that are clinically depressed, usually people are like, oh, yeah, there was a moment. But if you can replace your like subconscious brain right before that moment, you were actually happy.
Isn't that called NLP?
Yeah, there's different strategies of it, but that's one of the ways to do it is replace memories. And it's hard because it's not in your conscious, it's in your subconscious.
Right.
But if you can do that with people, they really get to the point where they can let go and they don't feel like they're entrapped with that, whatever's holding them back or whatever they're kind of trying to seek out, you know?
Yeah, but that's hard to do. Like
really hard to do, but that's why I think there's two ways to improve anything. One is a gradual change, two is shock the system. And I'm one of those shock the system kind of guys, as you can see, where I'm like, I'm very hard on people. I'm like, yo, let's go all in, but we can get crazy results if you go all in. And I did this consulting program with basketball trainers first. And I called it my next mentorship program. And it was basically, where do you want to go next in your career? Like, how can we help you take the next step?
Right.
And when we started it, I said, just so you know, the amount of money that you paid me, I promise you that we will make that money back and we will grossly do it. The average person in the first 6 months, 3x their business.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, these are like numbers. We're like, this is actually working better than we thought. You can't, expect that for everybody. But the reason was because I just didn't let them have excuses. I made sure that we really went back and said, what are the truths that you think are true that aren't really true? So they'd say, I lack gym space. So you've called every gym in the area. You've tried to make every deal that you can in the area. You've called churches and offered donations for your gyms. Like you started going through.
Right.
And then I said, okay, wait a second. This isn't just a basketball thing. This is a everybody thing, because so many people that, whether they're, very socially famous on social media or whether they're financially successful or what, they're missing some component in life that otherwise they wouldn't be seeking out coaching. Otherwise they wouldn't. But the other thing is, even ourselves, anybody that feels like they're in a good state, they feel like they have a good strategy, they feel like they have a good story that they're proud of, we can always go to another level. There's always another level.
I agree. That's why the best always have coaches.
I agree 100%.
For an exact reason. Well, oh my God, how long has this been? It's been like 5 hours, I think. You've been great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I think this is great. You've been absolutely wonderful. How do people find you?
So
if they want to know more, if there is any more.
The easiest way is my social media stuff, which is Drew Hanlen, DREWHANLEN. And we're doing some cool stuff this year. I've to this point in my career, I've been so basketball focused, but my 30th birthday is later this month.
I know, happy birthday.
And yours will be before, so happy birthday to you as well.
Thank you.
On my 30th birthday, we're launching finally publicly my corporate coaching. Normally I've done it privately for everybody, so I'm going to start putting out a ton of my motivational mindset, and it's all research driven, all kind of different. Each month we're going to do different challenges and stuff like that. So it's going to be cool. I'm going to go in that space.
I love it.
Even though people don't realize it sometimes. Like I do a ton of corporate speaking engagements and people are like, I didn't know you spoke. And I'm like, yeah, I do it privately because basketball has been the platform that I've chosen to help people with for a long time. But now I'm like, all right, I kind of am going from basketball to business, then to everybody.
But you got a lot to say, so I'm sure you're a great speaker.
I appreciate that.
No, thank you. It was very, very good to have you on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habits.